We have another trade to announce. Actually, we have a few that we're waiting for information on, but the one that we can break down fully is the Kyle Okposo to the Florida Panthers trade. And while we're doing that, I just want to remind you that if you're struggling with sleep and you want to get the necessary molecules to produce sleep naturally, none of the sleep hangover things that you get from other sleep supplements and that sort of thing.
You wake up in a haze. No, when you need to increase your honk shoes per 60. Wee.
Highly recommending Sleep Breakthrough. Give it a try. We started using Sleep Breakthrough because we knew, all of us, that we needed REM sleep for rejuvenation, and we weren't getting enough. And Steve just had a kid, so this is doubly important for him. Right, Steve? How you doing?
I want this product.
Again, we highly recommend Sleep Breakthrough. It's a true game changer. Visit biooptimizers.com/dangle. Use the promo code DANGLE during checkout to save 10%. Kyle Okposo, the ultimate hang in there despite everything story. Literally, he is.
Yes. His career, I thought, was done years ago.
Absolutely. And you know what? If it had been anybody less determined, it probably would have been.
Captain. NHL captain. Kyle Okposo. Well, not anymore, but yeah.
And he's going to be a Florida Panther now. So let's talk about this quickly, because Kyle Okposo has been in Buffalo a long, long time. Mm-hmm. He signed a 7-year, $42 million deal on the 1st of July in 2016. That is widely considered one of the worst 1st of Julys of all time in terms of signings.
It was real bad.
And that's not Kyle's fault, but all of that entire class of free agents, almost none of them worked out. In Kyle's case, it was a health issue.
Yes. Injury issue. I mean, so many of those guys ended up having to deal with that.
Yeah.
At varying points in their careers, but it was one of those things where you can spend your cap space on guys who you draft, or you can make a trade, or you can just go out in free agency and overspend on absolutely everyone. And they did.
And they were trying to surround Jack Eichel with pieces. And Kyle Okposo did bring leadership. Now, that contract has expired, but he had such a good year last year in Buffalo that they brought him back for $2.5 million this year. Actually, excuse me, $3 million this year.
Wow.
And he's off to the Florida Panthers. Now, what does Kyle Okposo...
You were right the first time. It's a $2.5 million cap hit.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, but the AAV is
yeah.
Weird. Anyway, I just want to ask you guys, what do you think he brings to this already pretty stacked Panthers team?
I think he matches them very well. They're a really big vibes team.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a really fun locker room, and they're acquiring an NHL captain, which I don't think can be overstated. But he's also like 220 pounds, which the Florida Panthers really like. They like beating up on guys. And I think he brings a good depth goal scoring touch. He hasn't hit 30 points in either of the last 2 seasons, but 11 goals, 12 goals. They don't need him, especially for what they gave up for him. At maximum, it's a 5th. They don't need him to score the lights out. They just need him to chip in, the occasional goal. Last year, they were using depth guys like Zach Dalpe, kind of in those situations, and now they got Okposo. Here's a fun one. When was the last time he played in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Okposo?
Yeah.
It has to be with the New York Islanders.
You are correct. 2016 in 11 games,
wow.
2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points.
He didn't play in last year's playoffs? No, they didn't make the playoffs.
No, he did not.
He was on the Sabres, who have made
right.
the playoffs
Yeah.
for 13 straight seasons.
Wow.
One thing you have here is Kevin Adams definitely doing right by a guy, but also just getting assets for somebody who probably isn't going to come back next year on the Sabres. And Garth Snow. Kyle Okposo's been in the league so long, he was drafted by Garth Snow. Like, that was his
wow.
contract. Like,
I was just looking. He's a 2006 draft pick.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. So you're adding some real veteran presence to the Panthers forward group, and their forward group doesn't need help. Like, it's already so good, and they just added Tarasenko on the top end, and now you just get some more depth pieces. And like, injuries are going to happen, so you might as well load up for essentially for free if it's a 7th, and it upgrades to the 5th if they win the Stanley Cup. And then there's also a 5th round pick prospect in there.
Yes, that's Callie Schlon. Sjalin. He's from Sweden. He's 24 years old. He was drafted in 2017. Here's his scouting report.
Smith. It's pronounced Smith.
Does not tend to play overly aggressive on either side of the ice, but is a steady puck mover.
What are you reading?
This is from Elite Prospects. But is a steady puck mover who does not make a lot of mistakes. That's from 2017.
Yeah,
he's with the Rochester Americans, right? Or Charlotte Checkers, and now Rochester Americans. This, to me, based on that return, guys, feels like the Sabres are doing right by this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny.
Which I hate. Did it have to be in this division?
Yeah.
You have to do right by him in Florida.
I know. I don't love that. But I mean, in a way, you get to stick it to the Leafs and Bruins.
Oh, yeah.
You get to screw with your other divisional opponents. But you also get a divisional rival to pay you in draft capital to look good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if there's a player you're going to do right by, it's this one. It's your team captain. You thought you would be further ahead in this process. You thought you would be making the playoffs this year, or at very least knocking on the door, and you're not. So it's time to cut bait here.
And they don't, the Sabres don't need Okposo for the next month and a half that's left of the season. Like, what's the point of just having this pending UFA around when you can just get a free 7th round pick? Just take it.
I'm looking at the Panthers' bottom 6 on Daily Faceoff right now. Edu Lutzerainen with Anton Lundell and Evan Rodriguez. Nick Cousins with Kevin Stenlund and Ryan Lomberg. Unless they move on from one or more of those guys in some other deal later in the day, I don't even know who Okposo kicks out of the lineup.
That's what I was trying to get to when I said Ed, they don't really need him at all. They have such a great forward group. He doesn't really fit in anywhere. But like I said, you need bodies. Like
options.
It's an option. It's just like the Troy Stetcher deal yesterday with Edmonton, where he doesn't really slot in anywhere on the D-core, but you might as well have bodies going into the playoffs. You take Okposo, get him for essentially nothing on both sides. So it's a good deal.
Options.
Producer Drew just texted the group. By the way, guys, this is Okposo's 17th season in the NHL.
Forever.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Good for him on a team that could win the President's Trophy. It's going to be a crazy, crazy time, and somebody who deserves to be in the playoffs after playing for the terrible Islanders for so many years, and then the terrible Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
Get this man some playoff time, for God's sakes.